Hi guys, it is my birthday and I decided to drop this podcast on my birthday. I've been very much wanting to drop a podcast simply just because I love listening to other women talk. It is like one of my favorite things to do. I feel like it's the first thing that I put on whenever I want to take a good drive, whenever I'm just not able to like be next to my girlfriends. Throwing on a good podcast has always been my way. Or whenever I just need some advice, like from another girl, from a girl that I don't know and might have experienced the same thing. Like it's been a safe space for me. I feel like as a kid, I did not have that person. And I think podcasts have really taken over that empty aspect in somebody's life. So I just decided to make one. Because if there's one thing about me, guys, I have the tea on life sometimes.
Do what you feel when you feel like it, if you feel like it.
That may be to some people quite shocking.
What's shocking? To do what you feel when you feel like it, when you feel like it, if you feel like it.
I guess because
it's
people
just saying,
tend to categorize
do what you
things.
want. Do what you want. I do what I want.
Just a little bit. Have not experienced everything, but I've experienced a lot from my young age, and I just wanted to share it in case somebody else was going through it and kind of give you guys words of wisdom or just thoughts. Maybe you've never even thought about the topics that we're going to talk about on this podcast, and it's going to make you think like, I need to get more in depth within myself. So, welcome to my first ever podcast. I've probably recorded hundreds of podcasts over the past 3 years. Nothing has ever felt right until now because you guys will surely know why once the seasons are over. There'll be multiple seasons. We'll be dropping every Saturday, so I'm super excited. And yeah, I wanted to drop the first one on my birthday, so thanks for tapping in. I have a little script here that I'm going to read off of just to make sure that we are staying on track. For those of you that don't know me, I'm your host, Riley Simpson. That's good if you don't know me. We can meet here for the first time. And if you want to see me more in person, you want to get like an in-person view of me, I am on YouTube. I always craved somebody that would just keep it super, super real with me. And I feel like that's really hard to find. I feel like people sometimes don't want to keep it real because it's hard. It's hard to be the receiver and it's hard to be the deliverer on a real topic. And instead of me pointing out little things, there'll be different episodes for you guys to click on, just like how podcasts work, I guess, that you can maybe relate to or maybe just think deeper about. So let's just get into episode 1. So before we get into episode 1 though, really quick, I just wanted to make sure that you guys know that I am not a licensed therapist or shrink. I am just on here for an ear for you to listen to, relate to, tilt your head, ask me questions, interact. It's kind of like an open therapy chat. Season 1 is based on breaking the cycle. I wanted to get into breaking the cycle because to be the woman of your dreams, you must start from level 1. And being a woman is just so difficult. Like nobody really, I feel like everybody talks about how being a woman is difficult, but being a woman that is kind of lost can be even more difficult. Getting on track with bear with me. This is my first podcast. But this first episode is going to be getting on track with what you desire so it can be what you have. Okay? Let's get on track with what we desire so it can be what you have. Breaking the cycle. So my whole season is going to be on breaking the cycle, this cycle of life, relationships, family, whatever you feel like you're going in a circle about. I'm going to guide you through a step-by-step on how I broke my cycle. Because for a long time, I experienced a lot of just like lost as a kid. Like, I feel like I was constantly in survival mode most of my childhood. Not most of my childhood. I had a beautiful childhood. Sorry, Mom, if you're watching this. But there was a part of my childhood that was very, very traumatic. And unfortunately, it was the part closest to me becoming a mini adult. So when that starts to happen, your brain is kind of developed. It's developing. And it puts you into survival mode. So I just because I was in survival mode for so long, I couldn't really gauge how I wanted to be There was no Riley. There was no me. I didn't feel like I actually was somebody. I felt like I was just existing. I've done so many different types of therapy, hypnotherapy, actual therapy, trauma therapy. I've been on medications, guys. Like, I have taken the mile to kind of heal what I thought I was going through and understand why I was going through it and all of the things. And nothing was harder than starting from level 1 of my desire. I had this itch to be somebody else, but the person that I was very much so not the person that I wanted to be. I wasn't happy with the person that I was. I wasn't happy with my younger self. A lot of people used to kind of tell me about myself and I didn't believe it, but then multiple people told me about myself and it was the same thing. And the only common denominator about this, about this sentence that they were using was that it was me. And I was like, if multiple people can look at me and tell me that this is how I am, bits and pieces of it must be true. So your first step is definitely going to be looking in the mirror. And I don't mean go sit in front of your mirror right now and look at it and tell me what you see. I mean, you can do that, but that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying be honest with yourself. If you can't be honest with yourself, then how do you expect other people to be honest with you? Ask yourself if this is really you. You go down a list, right? And just because you have a bad trait doesn't mean that you're a bad person. Just because somebody calls you a bitch, for say, let's say your equation is that you're a bitch. You have this bitch persona. Everybody calls you it. Everybody treats you like they got to walk on eggshells around you. It's this constant thing, right? That doesn't necessarily mean that you're a bitch as in you're a terrible person. But if you feel triggered, starting with our triggers, if you feel triggered about what somebody has to say about you, that means that it might be a little bit true. That's what I always say. If something actually bothers me, something about this sentence is true. So then I break into what about it is true. If they're calling you a bitch, how could you be seen as a bitch? In what way? Is it my demeanor? Is it the way that I talk to people? Is it my communication style, my body language? What about me is giving off this persona? Because when I was younger, I didn't want to be the way that people were saying that I was. So I had to get real with myself and ask myself, what was it? For example, a lot of people, I have an attitude problem. I would say that I have an attitude problem because of rightfully so reasons. It's not like I just pop out of nowhere with an attitude, but sometimes maybe I do. And for a long time, people kind of made me feel like I was just too much for my attitude problem. But then I am very observant and I noticed that other people have an attitude problem. It is not the end of the world. The only difference is they own it. Whatever your trait is, if you ask yourself, okay, yeah, I am a bitch, own it. Make sure you're aware of it. So when you get that feeling, your nervous system spikes up, you feel uncomfortable, you feel that somebody else is uncomfortable, you can communicate with them and be like, hey, look, I know that I'm a bitch and I have bitchy tendencies, but I'm a really dope person and it's really not personal. I'm just trying, that's just who I am. So if you want to continue any type of relationship, whether it be a friend, a family dynamic, whatever it might be, I just have bitchy tendencies and maybe you can help me on how to make you feel more comfortable in my space because this is just who I am. Sometimes you just have to own who you are. Sometimes breaking the cycle starts with owning who you are. Because once you own who you are, nobody can point the finger at you because you're so aware. You already made it clear that this is who I am, this is who I've been. And if it makes you so uncomfortable that you feel like it's this big of an issue, you tell me how I should act. If it makes you feel that uncomfortable, you tell me how I should act around you and I'll practice that. It's really as simple as that. It doesn't mean that you're going to be perfect. You're not going to be perfect. If there was a perfect person, like if you were supposed to be perfect for multiple people in this world, you wouldn't be human beings. Sometimes it feels like everybody's trying to put you in this category of being in this box and being this perfect individual when you're supposed to be different. Maybe you're supposed to have a bitchy attitude. Maybe you're supposed to be difficult. Maybe that is who makes you you. Breaking the cycle starts with knowing yourself. To be the woman of your dreams, you have to know what type of woman you are. Self-reflect with brutal honesty. Nobody in your room is judging you. It's just you. Ask yourself, what about these things are true? Where am I at in life? Am I a loser? Am I a bitch? Do I have bad skin? All the things that make you insecure, all the things that make you angry, all the things that make you uncomfortable. Ask yourself, are they true? If they're not true, let them go. There's a lot of assumptions people made about me. And I never really felt pinpointed because I was like, that's not true. But the things that were true, I did feel pinpointed. And it did feel like I had to be broken down in that area in order to be something else because I didn't like that part of me. Let's talk about breaking down the area that you don't like of yourself, how hard that process might be. A lot of you have probably never even thought that you could change. A lot of you have probably thought that this is just who I am. And even though I don't like these traits about myself, I can't change it. That's not true. And it's not to say that you need change. Don't forget that you can own up to who you are, and it's not a big deal. But if you don't like who you are, let's talk about how we can break that. It does start with breaking yourself. If you want to be something else, this vision that you also have of yourself, by the way, this vision of the girl that you are, how you show up for yourself, the job that you have, the relationship that you want, the friendships that you have, it is already existing. You have that vision for a reason. And the only way you're going to live that vision is putting in motion of what you already know is true. It is completely up to you to carve out the life that you want. It won't be handed to you just because you deserve it or because you're talented or because it's what's supposed to be yours. It's only going to be carved out if you go after it and you get it. I had a long conversation with God and my dad. For those of you guys that don't know, my dad did pass away when I was 13 and it changed my life. For a long time living in that survival mode, I couldn't be myself. When you go through traumatic experiences, you're not always going to be able to just pick up the pieces and just be who you want to be. Sometimes you have to try. You have to try to heal so you don't live in depression. You have to try to go to work so you can get money. All the things that will grow your life, you have to actually physically do. Even that relationship, you have to try for that relationship to be successful. So the same things apply to you. We don't go to school to be human beings. We go to school to learn facts on the world. And, we do all of these things that we practice these crafts, but we don't practice who we are. What makes us us? What is my trigger? Why do I operate this way? Why do I feel uncomfortable in this setting? Why do I feel like I can't breathe or I can't get the right man, or I can't have the right friendships or healthy dynamics or communicate? All these things are real truths. And I know we don't like to talk about therapy, but therapy saved my life and it saved many other people's lives, by the way. And let me just talk to you really quick. Please don't tap out of this when I talk about therapy because nobody has talked about therapy the way that I'm about to. All those questions that you individually ask yourself can be answered from a therapist. The right therapist, I won't lie to you, it does take time to find the right therapist and find somebody that, actually is going to help you. But a therapist is a licensed person that can guide you through this hard experience that you're experiencing. And I feel like a lot of people steer away from therapy because of insurance or because of, not wanting to change. I mean, life is so easy with your eyes closed. You're misunderstanding all that you see. Life is easy when you don't know what you're doing because you don't have to worry about the things that you don't know. But if you go to therapy or if you listen to the right podcast or if you read the right book, it will start to open up your eyes to things that you didn't know were true. But I can only take you so far. A book can only take you so far. Your friends can only teach you what they know. But like you individually, just like a class works, if you don't understand this math problem, you can ask the teacher in detail. Why you don't understand it, what you need a deeper breakdown on. It's really that simple. And if you're if you're with a therapist, you'll be able to ask those questions and they can help you. It's okay that some people need more help than others. Like, it's really not a big deal. What matters is the type of person that you end up being. And Nobody wants to live a life in misery. Your heaven could be right here. You could live a beautiful day every day. You don't need to be a millionaire to be happy. My mom is a prime example of that. We are not millionaires, yet we still take vacations. We still have nice cars. I still have designer bags. She still has given me a life bigger than I ever thought, and she is a very happy person, and she is not a millionaire. So this facade that's online that you need to get to this certain place, sorry, I think I just popped my mic, that you need to get to a certain place in order to feel successful is just not true. How you're going to feel successful is doing whatever little you dreamed of doing. Being proud of yourself every day for what you're accomplishing. Putting one foot in front of the other. Just because you have the plan and the plan is this grand scheme idea doesn't mean that you're going to get there right now. But let's take one step at a time, even if that just means getting out of bed today because you've been in a deep depression for a long time. Get out of bed. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about let's say you are in this cycle, right? You're in this cycle, you're trying to become the woman of your dreams, and maybe that just looks like, putting makeup on and, being independent, celibate. I feel like us women, we always put on independence, celibacy, and, money in our pockets. Okay. Maybe let's say that's been your cycle for a long time, but that has not made you happy. Whatever cycle you are going in that feels like a hamster wheel, you're either on a cycle, you're on a hamster wheel, you're going backwards, you're flowing with life, or you are taking one step forward. Let's talk about those. Well, if you're going backwards in life, you need to start to press the pedal forward. At least get in a flow state. Maybe you can't take one step at a time right now, but at least try to flow towards the things that make you happy. Whenever I'm down, even if I'm down and I'm in this repetitive cycle, something that you can always rely on for you to be better than you were the other day is doing what's true to you. Even if it's watching the right movie that you want to watch, or if it's, talking to your friends, hanging out with your friends, shopping sprees, whatever it might be that actually makes you happy, that's going to make a difference in your attitude, your nervous system, start doing that. Because then you can get into a flow system. But don't be fooled. The flow system is not necessarily where you want to be, because if you're flowing, you can still go backwards. You can go forward. You can go in a circle. You're like the wind, babe. You are just moving through life. And if people love to say, I'm in a flow state, that's not a good place to be. You need to get in a stepping state, because if you're just flowing, you have no structure. You have no real idea on what you want to do, and that's not going to break your cycle. I decided to make this podcast for a future reason that I'm not going to release yet. But I'm making this podcast with a purpose. I saw myself as also being a successful podcaster that has a voice and that can help people and just be somebody that might be able to teach people things. A lot of my friends, they always say, like, I wish your chats could be out there more, or I wish you did a podcast so I could listen to you. And as much as that didn't sit right with me, because I feel like my energy flows with my friends so differently, I feel like that's what's held me back from making a podcast. I also realized that I don't have to necessarily have this flow as a podcaster. I need to have a structure, because that's what makes sense, because I'm trying to put out messages. I'm trying to give people food for thought. I'm not trying to necessarily, there is no connection here necessarily. Not yet. This is my first podcast. I have to put something out there before I can get that. You always want to think realistically. So setting up your dream life and your dream woman and everything that you want to be starts with being real with yourself in every way, whether that be emotionally, how people see you. You got to break down who you are. Sometimes you have to, even if it means killing the person that you were just to find out that that is who you are, that will give you a lot more satisfaction on walking every day in this version of skin of yourself, knowing that I'm in full confidence that I have an attitude problem. That is something that comes with me. You can't use that against me. I'm in full awareness that I am not the easiest person to deal with, but I do know that all my pros outweigh my cons. That way you can't use it against me. When you're constantly being kind of triggered, and I feel like everybody gets triggered. That's why relationships don't work out, or conversations go left or whatever it might be. I feel like we all get triggered. And if we were only more aware of what makes us us, you wouldn't have so many issues with other people because you're hyper aware of who you are. And when you become hyper aware of who you are as a woman, this also could apply to men. I don't know if men are watching this, but this is designated to women because I am a woman. But when you're hyper aware of who you are as a woman, people can't hurt you necessarily. They can't hurt you by saying you're too much or, you're not good at this or you're not pretty enough or you're not this. You're just honest with yourself. Honesty is the best policy. You cannot, what do I always say? It's like something like, you can't knock the truth. The truth is there for a reason. And if you're constantly truthful with yourself or with others, I will never forget a girl not that long ago, she totally called me out on something that I did that was a little bit shady. And I was going to cover it up and be like, no, I didn't do that. Oh, that must have been a fluke in my social media. I don't know, how that happened. But instead I was 100% honest. I was like, yeah, girl, I did do that because you did this. And that's why I ended up doing this. LOL. Because at the end of the day, it takes two to tango. If you're being triggered, it probably has something to do with them as well. And letting people know what that is teaches them how to know you. If you never tell people that things irritate you, if you never communicate with people that this is how you are, how do you expect anybody to know who you are? Even if you are your dream woman, if you can't show up and appreciate the person that she is and who she's developing into and being honest and real about herself, there's not much else to be done. Now, let's say you're happy with the person you are. Let's say you're listening to this and you're like, I have no issues. I'm happy with the person. I don't need to see what's in front of me. I don't need to know or change or anything like that. That is okay. If you want to be the same person that you've always been and you're happy with that, not everybody needs a challenge to be their dream woman. Sometimes you are your dream woman and you're not confused. But there are some of us that are confused, and I'll be the first to say it, that I was very confused. I was very lost. I didn't know if I would ever be the woman that I am today. And I always saw her, and I see her even bigger than who I am today. But I didn't know if I would ever get here because I didn't know if that was possible. I didn't know if that was a delusion or if that was just something that I wanted. But it was all possible because it was all already who I am. I just had to open her up, crack her up. Unfortunately, I experienced a lot of crazy things that blocked me from being able to be myself. And here I am, and I'm happy to be her. But if you see no problem in yourself, that's okay. You're okay with whoever you are. That's what I want you guys to know. Realizing that you are okay exactly who you are is becoming your dream woman. Being happy with who you are is being your dream woman. Being okay with your faults, knowing your flaws, knowing that, I am human and it's okay for me not to be perfect because that's what being a human is, imperfect. That is my overall message today. I don't want you to think that you need to be perfect or that you need to fix yourself or that you need to change. That was not the purpose of my message. My purpose here was simply just to ask yourself more questions. If you want to go deeper, you're stuck in a cycle that you don't like, you haven't been able to move forward. You just need to ask yourself more questions. You need to be honest with yourself because it doesn't matter how many times you ask your mom, what can I do differently? Or your friends, they don't know. They're not you. You're living with those inner thoughts that are telling you that you want more. And the only way that you're going to get to know what more looks like is going to be being honest with just yourself. And that's all I want for more people because it's really not that scary once you do it the first time. I know that this might have seemed like a lot of information and it's like, what? I didn't even know that I had to look at myself or that I had any flaws, or I didn't know that it could be true that people felt this way about me. I thought they were just crazy, or I didn't even know that actually bothered me as much as it did. But now that I think of it, my nervous system did spike and that did irritate me, and it irritated me because X, Y, and Z. You might have realized in this podcast that you have a lot more triggers than you ever thought that you did, and that is okay. It does happen. Sorry. But the truth is that it's all okay. It's okay to not have it figured out, to not know. You only know as much as you know. I only know as much as I know. I don't know more. And that's why I go to therapy, or I try to read self-help books, or I try to expand my mind on myself, because at least I want to know myself as best as I can. And that's all I feel like I want for more people, is just to know themselves a little bit more, because then it would make it just a lot easier to operate in the world. Sometimes when we're constantly around lost souls, I am in Los Angeles, for those of you guys that are listening to this on a different time zone, a lot of Los Angeles is full of just lost souls. And I truly think it's because they're pushing themselves to the limits of just not being who they really are. You're pushing yourself to the box and the category of the wrong side of things. Just because you're eager to be a star doesn't mean that you should lose sight of yourself to be it. You can. We've seen it time and time again. You've heard so many different podcasts or interviews of people losing themselves just to be famous. And sometimes that is exactly what they want. That is what you're going to be doing with the information that I'm giving you here on this podcast. You are breaking yourself so you can truly ask yourself what matters to you. Because once you know what matters to you, what your dream life looks like, what your faults are, your triggers, your imperfections, when you start breaking down those 5 categories, you're really going to know more and more about yourself. And the more you dig and you dig and you dig at yourself, the same way you dig through that man's phone, if you digged at yourself as much as you did that, you would probably know a lot about yourself. And that would help you feel more confident. That would help you feel more on path of where you want to go in your life. It just helps. I'm in my 20s, so I feel like this is a long time of figuring yourself out, figuring out your adulthood. You know, we go through so many different phases in life. When you're a kid, you're just trying to figure out how to get to the nipple. And then when you become a toddler, you're trying to figure out how to say ABCs. And then when you become, of age, you're trying to figure out how to walk and how to learn things and how to read. And then you become a teenager and you're hitting puberty for the first time. And then you fall in love for the first time. And then, you go to college and you're away on your own for the first time. And then you hit your 20s and everything starts to feel real for the first time. We all experience a lot of first times in our life. So give yourself a little bit more grace, realizing that you're experiencing today for the very first time. You're experiencing this age for the first time. You're growing up for the first time. You're experiencing life for the first time. And for some reason in your 20s, that really, really hits differently. You really start to feel like, oh my God, I'm fully in charge of my life. And if I don't get this under a scope, I'm going to feel like an absolute loser. And that's okay. A lot of the times you're going to fail more than you're going to succeed. You're going to be sad more than you're going to be happy. But knowing what makes you happy, knowing the life that you want to live, knowing yourself, knowing the routine that makes you feel the most successful is going to help you push in that direction. We're trying to push ourselves in that direction. So yeah, we're just trying to break through the cycles so we can move forward in life. A lot of things just come within your own stepping stone. And don't be scared. This is just level 1. Maybe take out your journal and write down these 5 things, or make a mental note when you're done clicking off of this podcast, and realize that you need to, 1, ask yourself what your dream life looks like. Be unrealistic and be realistic. Let's make 2 of those lists. Then ask yourself if you could take one baby step to get into the first jump of where you want to be. What does that look like? Remember, a baby step. I want to be a licensed therapist, but the first step is applying to college and getting my transcripts over there. That's a baby step. I'm not saying that I'm going to be in class next month. I'm just trying to take the step to get there. So write down your baby step of how you're going to get there. Do that for all the categories of where you see the big things in your life. Your life is kind of like, on Inside Out, when she has those like big lifelines that make up her personality, all those little things do exist in your body, but think about your big lifelines, your personality traits, where you see your life in love, where you see your life in the future, where you see your life in a job, where you see your life in friendship, and where you see your life in your family, where you see your life individually. Like, ask yourself what those big personality traits look like and what the baby steps to get to where your end goal is, how you see yourself. What are the baby steps to get there? That's rule number 1. Then ask yourself, what are your triggers? Look yourself in the mirror and ask yourself about every insecurity you have about yourself. Your insecurities are your biggest weakness. So you want to be able to nip these in the bud. Ask yourself about your insecurities. Maybe just start with 1 or 2. You don't need to list out the whole thing. That could be really, really hard, really, really exhausting. Okay. So just knock out maybe the first one that's super obvious. I'll tell you guys, for me, it's my skin. And I was like, do you actually have acne, or do you just have a few imperfections that make you insecure? I have a few imperfections that make me insecure. Are you actually ugly because of your acne? No. Because before I felt ugly because I have acne. I felt disgusting because I had an array of pimples on the side of my face, and I felt like people couldn't see me because I didn't want them to see me without perfect skin. And it was like this whole thing. Biggest insecurity of my life. Ask yourself your questions about your insecurities so you can nip them in the butt. And then also be real with yourself. Is there things that people have said about you numerous times, different people that shouldn't know this common denominator thing? Is there something like I'm a bitch or I have an attitude problem? Ask yourself where that comes from, why it spikes your nervous levels. This is going to help you get to know your triggers, and then you can be honest with them. Own them. Either own them or work on them. Ask if you're owning them, check that off as a personality trait. I am a bitch, and this is how I am a bitch, and this is who I am, and I'm okay with this. Boom, we're writing that off. Or I have an attitude problem. I don't like that I have an attitude problem. I don't like that I approach people this way. How could I fix that would make me feel good and help with others? Maybe you need to call your mom or your best friend and ask them, be like, look, I actually know I have this attitude problem and I don't necessarily know how to fix it. So I was curious, how does it feel when I spike at you, throw energy bombs at you, give you attitude? How does that feel? Ask the people closest to you. And let's say you don't have anybody closest to you. You're going to have to keep asking yourself when it comes up, and then you set things in practice. When you get triggered in front of somebody, instead of taking it out on them, it has to do with you because you're the one that's having the problem. So ask yourself, why is this triggering me? Because when you know why it's triggering you, you can then again tell somebody, actually, I really don't like that you did that. It triggers me in a really bad way. And I want you to know that because it makes me not want to be around you because you do that. It's never what you say, it's how you say it. Nobody can knock the truth, remember. So let's just start out with those three things. Becoming your dream woman starts with knowing who you are as a woman. Breaking the cycle, these are the beginner's levels. Figure out your dream life, take steps towards them, baby steps, and, also know your own triggers. Those are the 3 things that I want you to work on, that I want you to think about, that I want you to process. And once you can do that, we will get on to episode 2. I will see you guys every 2 weeks on Saturday. I have all my episodes already recorded, so don't you worry. But there is only going to be a limited number of episodes for this season of Breaking the Cycle before we get into our season 2. So thank you guys so much for tuning into season 1. I'm so excited. I think this went really, really well. And happy birthday to me. I just turned 26, you guys, and it's feeling good. I wouldn't go back to my younger self besides to make some better choices, but those made me me, and that is okay. Okay, I'm finally going to log out now because this is just getting long and drawn out. See you guys on Saturday. Bye.
Do what you feel when you feel like it, if you feel like it.
That may be to some people quite shocking.
What's shocking? To do what you feel when you feel like it, when you feel like it, if you feel like it.
I guess because
it's
people
just saying,
tend to categorize
do what you
things.
want. Do what you want. I do what I want.